Hey guys, welcome back to the Little Farm in the Forest, and thanks so much for being here for this week's Pantry Chat. If you're new here, my name is Kate, and I am your millennial memaw, and this is a series where I teach you how to build a from-scratch pantry to get ahead of rising grocery costs, encourage you to get into the kitchen and learn how to cook from scratch more, and to lessen your dependence on some of those packaged and processed foods that a lot of people rely on. This is going to be another rapid-fire video with the holidays here in full swing. It is the time of year where we do a lot of baking most of the time. And this is the time of year where a lot of your ingredients that serve as a foundation to bake goods go on sale. And now would be the time to stock up. If you're new to building a pantry, this is the best time to do it. It is important to know I do not have any food allergies. I do not have any dietary restrictions. So you may have to make some swaps to accommodate your household. But this is just to give you kind of a checklist and a starting point of some very basic things to keep on hand. So we've got our oil. I keep avocado and olive oil on hand in bulk quantities, not just for baking, but for cooking purposes. I always keep all purpose flour and whole wheat flour on hand. And I think while that sounds very basic, people don't realize how much of a foundation flour is. So you've got pancakes, you got muffins, you got donuts, you got bread, you got waffles, all sorts of things you can make with flour. If you need a flour alternative, look into Azure Standard to see if they sell your flour alternative in bulk sizes. Usually it's a lot cheaper that way. I do keep oats on hand, and I make my own oat flour for certain recipes that we just really like that call for oat flour. The next one is going to be cocoa powder. I always have cocoa powder on hand. You will not find my house without any form of chocolate. And sometimes there's an emergency and you need a batch of emotional support brownies. So cocoa powder and chocolate chips. I always have those on hand. I just forgot to pull out the chocolate chips to show you guys. The next one is going to be our thickening agents and our leavening agents. And we've got cornstarch. So I use this to thicken gravies, sauces, soups, anything that you might need a starch just to give it a little bit more richness. And then you've got your leavening agents, which is baking powder and baking soda, and then yeast. If you're just getting started, I buy my yeast in bulk from Sam's Club, and I keep it in the fridge. There are the little packets of yeast if you were just getting started that are shelf stable that you can keep in your pantry that don't have to take up fridge space. If you're just getting into baking or you're trying to learn how to make bread, those little packets of yeast are perfect and they're shelf stable. So I would recommend you getting some yeast in your pantry. The next one is going to be salt. I keep a coarse sea salt for finishing baked goods and then just a regular table salt for the actual ingredient mix. And then in the next section, we've got our sweeteners and our sugars. So in our household, I do accommodate for diabetes, and we've got regular sugar on hand for those that can use it, and then I keep some sweetening alternatives on hand. So I keep stevia, I keep monk fruit, I keep honey on hand. That's all going to be very personal preference. I buy my honey in bulk from Azure Standard whenever I can't get it from a local beekeeper. I found one that does sell it by the gallon near us, but unfortunately I missed her harvest this year, so I had to order from Azure. And one thing I do not buy from the grocery store that I do make from scratch, and I would encourage everybody to make from scratch, is brown sugar. If you did not know, brown sugar is just white sugar with molasses added in. And if you think about it, when you're baking, certain recipes may call for light brown sugar or dark brown sugar. And all you need to do instead of buying 3 different bags of sugar is get you a bag of regular sugar, white sugar, and a jar of molasses. Molasses has a very long shelf life. And for light brown sugar, you're going to do 1 cup of white sugar to 1 tablespoon of molasses. And for dark brown sugar, you're going to do 1 cup of sugar to 2 tablespoons of molasses. And I just think the texture, the flavor, it's just unmatched to grocery store brown sugar. I will never buy brown sugar from the grocery store again. And then the last one is going to be our extracts. So I've got a big bottle of lemon extract here. I usually keep peppermint extract on hand. I'm just out of it right now. And then I usually make my own vanilla extract, but I ran out. So I just bought this tiny little bottle in a pinch. Whatever is accessible to you. We'll do a video on how to make vanilla extract because it's very easy. And you can either do it the long method where you steep it for a few months, or you can do it like in an Instapot or a pressure cooker. And then I keep some almond extract on hand, just anything you may need to flavor baked goods. Purpose of this is to give you foundational ingredients to be able to keep food on the table and to just learn how to supplement your grocery bill from scratch, because it is generally cheaper to bake a batch of cookies than it is to go buy a pack of cookies. It's also gives you control over the ingredients, and generally it's a little healthier for you. And I wanted to address a question I got: how do I use my pantry to supplement my grocery bill? So I know you guys aren't going to be able to read my fridge, but when I am meal planning, like I am doing currently for this upcoming week, I go through my fridge, I go through my pantry, go through my freezer, kind of see what I have, and then I just kind of rapid fire ideas out, and then I write them on my fridge with a dry erase marker so I can see them, and that tells me what I have and what I need to get. And so this week we've got three different meals that are coming from the pantry. I don't have to buy a single ingredient for them. I just either have to make the sauce. I'm gonna make a homemade gnocchi. I'm not gonna buy packaged gnocchi. I have sweet potatoes in storage. I covered this in my last pantry chat. I'm gonna make sweet potato gnocchi with brown butter and sage, and then I'm gonna do a butternut risotto. I covered this in our first pantry chat where I talked about keeping rice on hand. I do keep several varieties of rice on hand, so I have some arborio rice I need to use. We just haven't done it in a while. And in my other video, I talked about keeping squash on hand as a storage item and a fresh option. And I grew a lot of my own squash this year. So I figured I would throw some butternut squash on the table. I was gonna do like an orange chickpea, like instead of orange chicken, do chickpeas or like a General Tso's chickpea. And I have everything I need. I just gotta whip up a sauce. I've got chickpeas in the pantry. Just gotta cook them up and toss them in the sauce. And then we got a meal on the table. I'll serve it with a side of rice. I'll serve it with some broccoli. 3 out of 4 meals are coming directly from the pantry, and that's three wholesome, nutrient dense foods that I don't have to go buy any items for. I had the vegetables in my freezer. I've got the vegetables in my pantry. I've got the foundations here to make the sauce, to make the gravy, to make whatever it is that I need to make. And that is the purpose of the pantry. It is not to hoard food. It is not to eat your food. It is not to just hold the food and not use it. It is very important for you to get comfortable using the food you have on hand. This is a week where we're a little strapped for cash and we're not going to have a very big grocery budget. And when weeks like this pop up, usually the groceries are the first thing to get cut. And I refuse to sacrifice on not fueling myself. I refuse to sacrifice on not giving myself the energy and the nutrients my body needs. And that's where the pantry comes in for us. We're putting out down a deposit on a hog in the spring, as well as purchasing some beef from a local supplier, which comes with a hefty price tag, but that'll carry us through most of the year. So this week, it was going to be, let's get a little creative with the pantry and see what I can come up with. Sometimes it gets a little boring and we're eating oatmeal for breakfast, but that's all right. I don't mind. Sometimes that means I have to carve out a little bit of time on the weekend and make our sandwich bread from scratch, because I'm not paying $3 to $5 for a loaf of bread. I'm just glad you're here. I'll see you this coming weekend with our herbalism chat. We're going to be making some exciting things, talking about a couple new herbs in the kitchen, and I just hope you guys are having a really great holiday season and you're hanging in there. Thanks for being here with me. Bye.